Hi there, my name is Jay with Server Matter and CompuMatter, and the purpose of this video is to teach my future self and you in the process a little bit about Burp backup notifications. It's one thing to know that you've got a backup done or a restore in the works, but it's quite another if those things fail and you have no idea they have failed. There are many customers who think that backups are being done. They're going about their business only to look back a year later when they need it and find out it hasn't in fact been performed. So let's make sure that you have your notifications in place, and here's a walkthrough on that process. To start with, we're going to edit the etc. burp server file, burp server CONF. We're going to scroll down to this area called Notify Success Script. The first one is a bash script which actually carries out the process of determining what log information is going to appear in your email, be it pass or fail. The client name, the date things happen, the amount of gigabytes, whatever the information that needs to be provided to you, it's extracted through the process of running that script. Now, it's a fairly complicated script. If you are a programmer and you want to get in there and create your own script and modify it in new and unique ways, you can create a different address and modify that script to your liking. But we're going to use the one that's out of the box. The notify success argument, send mail T. Presumably that is just to use the send mail program that comes with, I think, most if not all Linux servers, and send that off. And then who's it going to, who's it coming from, and what's the subject. Now the subject is important because that's going to get your attention when it comes in. For me, I like to put the name of the server that the backup or restore is actually being done on, followed by the C, which is, if you look up here, let me go up a little bit north, you see there is some notes in this Burp configuration file, this Burp server configuration file. A B means it's either going to be backup, restore, or verify. Depending on what type of transaction this was. C is going to be the name of the client. It could be the server, it could be one of the network attached clients. And any warnings, the number of warnings is what that would be, would show up as a W. So in the case of my success argument, I have that coming in. It's going to start off with compumatter.biz, who the client was, whether it was a backup restore, and the rest is internal. I have a notation whether it's an internal backup or a cloud backup. I use a different program for that. This tells me which one it is, and result, in this case, success, so I can just smile when I see that. The next section is for failure scripts. Very much the same. The only difference is this little bit right here, I'm putting result failed. Otherwise, it's totally the same, but in your case, you may want failures to go to a different address or from a different address, in which case this will take care of that. Okay, let me get my big ugly head out of the way. I had no idea that I was in the large mode. Okay, so let's get out of here. In fact, I'll touch on that script just a little bit so you can kind of see what's inside of it. And this is the bash script, and this is the type of stuff that will be sent to you via email. You've got here an if statement on backup, restore, or verify. If it's backup, then it'll carry out these extra tasks. But anyway, that's the gist of that script. Now, if we look here in my Thunderbird setup, you'll notice I have an inbox, and then I've got some different sections for backup internal success, backup internal failed, and so on and so on. And that way, in my email software, I can create filters that say, if this appears in the subject matter, go ahead and send it into this box so I don't get my main inbox full of notifications. But I kind of like to know that successful backups are being done on my clients, and this gives me every 20 minutes for my Windows clients in this case, and also for my server. You can see VM1 backup appear here. Those are in fact my individual Windows clients at different servers that we have. And then you also see SM server backup, and that is actually the client name, that %C that you saw. Yeah, I did say that. that's going to be the server backup itself. So, and this is an example of a log file. Nothing more to add to that. You can kind of read it for yourself. Backup completed successfully. You can see all the data. There's no errors in there, so you know you're good. Now the backup failures, I've purposely created these failure conditions earlier so you can kind of see what's up there. And the important part is at the end, it says backup failed. It'll give you an idea why. In this particular case, I Control-C to stop it. But let me demonstrate that so you can kind of get an idea of how I failed a backup to test the failures, because you're going to want to test and make sure that your failures are generating the emails you think that they should be. Okay, so we're in a Windows virtual machine right now, and it has Burp installed, so everything's configured. If I run burp -AB from the bin directory, it's going to start that backup. Now, as soon as it gets into the backup and starts to back up a little data, I'm going to Control-C out of it, which forces a failure. And that same circumstance will apply on your Linux clients or your Apple clients. Okay, now let's Control-C. In fact, it takes quite a few Control-Cs, because Burp is very persistent. There we go. That killed it. In a little bit, we're going to see a notification. There's our notification in the lower right corner that we have a fail condition. And there we go. So now we know to dig in and figure out why this backup failed and go from there. Now, let's talk about client overrides on the notification addresses. You know, we've got one in the server that you just saw under Burp Server, and that covers all clients by default. Those are the scripts and those are the email addresses that are going to be used. But you may indeed have an individual client that says, hey, I need to know when these backup fails occur, in addition to whoever else is knowing about it on a larger, from the view from the top. So let's look at that. Okay, so in this directory, I have my server backup and my virtual machine backup that I was just showing you a minute ago. These are two client configuration files that I have in this location, and this location would have had to have been set in your burp server.conf file so it knows where to find your client files. And you can see that right here in my etc. burp-server configuration file, which I've just shown right here. So we're in that directory. These are my files. Let's edit the VM1 backup. Now, right now it doesn't have any overrides here. So here's how we'll override it if we want to. We'll go back to the Burp server. We'll find the notification information, and we'll grab what we want of this. Let's just grab all of it for now. Go back into our VM1, and we'll right-click and paste that. We don't need the top line. It will use that script by default, unless you want to use a different script, in which case you'll want to put that path in here. This is all you need. Who's the success going to? Who's the failure going to? Maybe you don't want the successes going anywhere new. You can just leave that empty. It will use the parent settings. But the send mail-t has to be in there, and all three of these notify failure args or success args, depending on what you're using, have to be there. Now at this point you may want, in some cases, the two you might want to be yourself plus my client at wherever.com, right? You want it to copy you don't want to miss those, and you want it to get to this particular client. You can save that, exit, and then it will go to both email addresses, because this will override the other settings. And that's it. That's how Burp notifications work. Be sure to test them and know they're working, and in this way it reminds me of a saying that Ronald Reagan used back in the days of the Cold War, which was trust but verify, and that applies to backups, and this is how you can do it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.